Hello, everyone, and welcome to our free May 2024 webinar, Virtual Bookkeeping Success. We'll be talking about client onboarding essentials. Welcome to our webinar. As you're joining me today, let me know in the chat where you're joining me from. As you know, I always enjoy finding out where you're joining from because we have people from all over the US, Canada, and all over the world. So it's always very exciting. So as you're doing that, just let me know in the chat where you're joining from. And as I said, we will be talking about client onboarding essentials. So we have Elizabeth from Beaumont, Texas, and Tracy from San Antonio, Jamie from Southern Oregon, Susan from California, but she lives in Texas. We have quite a few Texans today. Peter from Toronto, Canada. Jennifer from Tyler, another Texan. Nina from Winter Haven, Florida. Tanya from Northeastern Oregon. Wendy from Calgary, Alberta. Charlie from Portland, Oregon. Jonathan from Cincinnati, Ohio. Stacy from Long Island, New York. Therese, another Texan from McKinney. Ginger from Michigan, Jenny from North Carolina, Lisa from Portland, Oregon, Antoine from Hawaii, aloha, Jennifer from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Brianna from Saskatchewan, Canada, Becky from Wisconsin, Veronica from Conroe, another Texan. I guess we got the large Texas contingent happening today. Louise from Miami, Carl from Denver. Boy, I mean, we have so many of you. Beth from Maryland, Stephanie from says tiny, remote, beautiful San Juan Island in Washington State. I have not heard of them and I have to look it up. Nikki from Kauai, Kimitha from Bryan, Texas. Jennifer from Wisconsin. So again, welcome. So as you're joining, just let me know in the chat where you're joining from. And once again, this is our free May 2024 webinar. I will be talking about client onboarding essentials. This is a brand new webinar that I wanted to bring to you guys. So I'm excited to do that. I think we had close to 800 people sign up for the webinar. So that tells me that this is something you really want to know about. So I'm excited to bring it to you. And oh boy, we have so many more joining us today. Patricia from Los Angeles, Tara from Minnesota, Samantha from North Carolina. So again, welcome. So as you're joining and as we're getting ready to start, just a quick introduction about me in case you don't know who I am, or maybe you just found out about me through my social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and you're wondering who I am. So my name is Veronica Wasek, and I am the unstoppable introvert. That's my new job title, what I'm going by now, the unstoppable introvert. You can find me on social media at 5 Minute Bookkeeping. And you can also learn more about me and everything that we do at 5minutebookkeeping.com. That's our website. At 5mbacademy.com. That is the online academy that I have for bookkeepers that has free and paid content where I empower you to become a confident professional and business owner. And really my goal is to help you build the life and business of your dreams. And I'm also the founder of Mavency, where we provide bookkeeping services to Shopify and TikTok sellers. So lots of you joining today, and thank you, because if you're anything like me, like my week is all messed up already with the holiday yesterday. So it's actually Tuesday and not Monday, and I'm confused, but thank you for joining, because I know you're probably very busy, trying to work in a condensed week. So just some administrative announcements. This presentation is subject to copyright, so you may not record the presentation. You may not share it on YouTube or on social media, and you may not share the handout on social media. We do have handouts for everyone, so you'll see that in your webinar. I think there's a tab that says handouts. We will also email the recording of the webinar as well as the handouts to everyone who registered. So if for some reason you're not able to stay for the full webinar, we will be sending the recording. As long as you registered, you will get everything. We have a chat and a Q&A. The chat is primarily for, so we can talk back and forth so that you can talk amongst yourselves. Sometimes I know you guys do that. Throughout this webinar, I will actually be asking some questions of you. So we're going to be more interactive. So we're going to use the chat for that. For any questions that you have for me that you want me to answer towards the end of the webinar, put those in the Q&A tab. So anything that is in the Q&A tab, then I will answer there. And I will answer your questions towards the end of the webinar. I also have with me Jill Keel. She is my assistant. So if I make reference to something that maybe we need to provide you a link, she will do that. She may answer some of your questions if they're general questions in the chat as well. And I see we still have lots of you joining. And if I think I see a comment from someone who says they can't hear me, so I know that Jill will probably put a comment there for them to get some instruction on what they need to click on to hear me. And I see we even have someone from Bahrain, Yeda Joy Sorio from Bahrain. So welcome. And again, always so exciting to have you join me. I know I can't see you per se, but I really do feel your presence, and I do get very excited when I see you in the chat and I see where you're joining from. So we are talking about client onboarding essentials, and really even going back a little bit further, talking about then and now, how I started my business. I said I'm the unstoppable introvert, and really when I started my business, I was just so scared. I was introverted. I still am introverted, believe it or not. I'm a fairly introverted person, and it was very scary to start a new business. And I just wanted to share with you the contrast of how I started and where I was versus where I am now. So then and now, I started my business in the middle of the Great Recession. In 2010 is when I started my business. The Great Recession was already going on. I didn't have any money, didn't have any clients, didn't have any employees, really had no idea what I was doing other than I've lost 2 jobs and I need to do something to try to earn some money. And I'm a CPA, but I don't want to do taxes. So let me figure out what I can put together. So that was really that's how I started. No idea really what I was doing in terms of the kind of business that I needed to build, the kind of clients that I needed to work with, or even a vision for what the business needed to look like. It was just, hey, I just need some money and I have some skills and I'll put together a business. 14 years later, I have a niche business. We work with premium clients. We have a team of 7, including 1 outsourced overseas resource. I work 20 hours a week or even less. And in fact, now I'm working about 3.5 days a week, and I usually do about 6 hours a day. So I'm working a whole lot less nowadays. I spend under 10% of my time on client work. So back then, when I had no employees and no money, no nothing, I did all the work. Now I only spend 10% of my time on client work. My husband left his job in 2019, and we are really now making our dreams come true, where we are moving to our 90-acre farm in really end of 2024, definitely by the beginning of 2025. So this is the house and barn that we are building, as I said, at our 90-acre farm. So we are very, very excited. And it's taken a lot to get to this point. It's taken dreams that I didn't know I had even. And so the reason I shared this with you is just to show you that, you may be starting out and you may be scared. You don't know what to do. You don't know where the next client is coming from. I was there too. And, but I persevered, I stuck with it, and I'll share with you actually the keys to my success that I think, are keys to my success. Oh, this is my latest update. We have some, we will be doing, rainwater collection. And so these are the 2 tanks that we just installed to collect rainwater. And this is the water that we'll use for our home. So we're very excited about that. And I believe we're the only people in our county that have these rainwater collection tanks. So again, very excited about that. So what were the keys to my success? How did I go from scared and really had no idea what I was doing to then reaching the level of success that I have? Number one, it was treating my business as a business. So not thinking that I was self-employed, that I had a side hustle, that, I was a contractor. I went in saying to myself, I'm putting together a business and I will run it like a business. The other was systematizing my workflows, creating checklists, processes, making everything consistent throughout the entire firm so that I would do things consistently and so that I would ensure that I had the quality that I wanted. And then as I added employees so that everybody would do things the same way. We created repeatable and documentable repeatable processes that were documented. So again, as we added team members, that was the key, that everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing. Everybody followed my way of doing things. And again, all team members follow the same process, and also setting client boundaries. And as you know, probably if you are working with bookkeeping clients, that it is very hard to get clients to comply, and many of them are pushing our boundaries. And so setting those clear client boundaries was very important. And Z says, howdy from Las Vegas. Congratulations on your ranch. I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much. We are super excited. Our builder just said we'll probably be moved in by the end of the year. So very, very excited. And Sherry says, yay for rainwater collection. So yeah, we're very excited about that. All right. So in the previous webinar, I think it was my last month's webinar, which is on YouTube, by the way, on the 5-Minute Bookkeeping YouTube channel. We talked about virtual bookkeeping workflows, and we talked about the 5 steps to success to build your virtual bookkeeping workflows. So from the top, going clockwise, we talked about the fact that you need to have tech tools. You need to have a system for document management. You need to make sure that you have a client onboarding process, a monthly bookkeeping process, and that you have a process for team and client collaboration. So today we're going to focus on talking about client onboarding. What are some of the challenges with client onboarding? First of all, how do you get everything that you need from your virtual clients? That is something that we still struggle with sometimes. How are we going to get everything that we need from that new client in the most efficient way? Because they tend to give you like a little bit here, a little bit there, and they disappear. Then we have to get things from them again. So that is very challenging. The next challenge, how do you set clear boundaries with your clients from the start? Because as I said, they're pushing the boundaries. They don't want to behave. By nature, small business owners, entrepreneurs are very independent. They don't necessarily want to follow all the rules. That's why they have their own business and don't work for other people. They have that very independent spirit, but it's difficult when you need them to comply with and give you the things that you need. And then third, how do you stay organized throughout the onboarding process? I don't know if you've joined some of my prior webinars when I've talked about using yellow stickies in the beginning, because I didn't have a system or process or an app. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I'm just tracking things and writing them on a sticky, and I'm putting it on my computer, on my desk, and then all of a sudden there's just yellow stickies everywhere. And so it is very challenging to onboard those new clients. And, we're excited to work with a new client, and I think they're excited to work with us, but then the excitement goes away, I think, on the part of the client, just because they move on to something else. They just think, I hired a bookkeeper, but they're not giving you everything you need. And then we're excited to work with them, but then it's not that exciting after we have to keep asking for more information. So before we dive into client onboarding, let's first define what it is. What is client onboarding? It's the process of getting a new client up and running in your business. So it's just a new client that we have to get them up and running. So sometimes people use onboarding for the sales process and bringing on a client during the sales process. To me, that's sales. It's not client onboarding. So it's just from the time that they become a client until we get everything that we need from them and we start doing the work for them, basically. But when is a client really a client? Because sometimes we'll say, I have a new client and I'm meeting them tomorrow and I'm going to find out about them. That's a prospect. It's not a client. So they're a prospect until they become a client. So what makes them a client? First of all, you need to have a signed engagement letter, which is basically a contract with your client, agreeing on what you will do. So it's going to list all of the services that you're going to provide to them, your terms of service, payment terms, anything else that really communicates the relationship that you and your client have, what they can expect in terms of the work that you will provide, and what you will charge them, and what to do. So, okay, when is it due? I'm charging you X. When is it due? So you really need to have a signed engagement letter, and you need to have some sort of payment upfront from your client. In my world, and I'm quoting Linda Reed because she says that a lot. In my world, sorry, Linda. Anyway, so in my world, I need to have a signed engagement letter from that client, and I need to have some form of upfront payment from them that makes them a client. If I don't have an agreement with them on what we will do, how much it will cost, if I don't have payment from them, I don't have a client yet. It's a prospect. So my question to you, so let me know in the chat, are you using engagement letters with your clients? So let me know in the chat if you are using engagement letters with your clients. And if you're not, you can get a free engagement letter template as a basic engagement letter from my free virtual bookkeepers toolbox on 5MB Academy. So I see lots of you saying, yes, definitely, fantastic. I mean, that's awesome. And again, it's so important to have that written agreement with your client, because otherwise you don't have an agreement. And how do I know the value of using an engagement letter? Is because I wasn't using them in the beginning, and it cost me thousands of dollars, because when the client chose to not pay me, I had nothing to fall back on saying, well, you agreed. First of all, I agreed to do X, Y, Z for you, and you agreed to pay me. There was no agreement. And so I learned after, I don't know, that I'm thinking that lesson cost at least $5,000, maybe $8,000, and more than one time. Okay. So it was one of those hard lessons that I had to learn. Finally, I need an engagement letter, and I need to get some upfront payment in order to ensure that this client is going to pay and that they're not going to disappear on me and not pay me. So most of you are saying yes. Some of you are saying no. And Maria says she's using the engagement letters that she purchased from 5MB Academy, which I definitely recommend those, and I'll tell you about those a little bit later. And so if you are not, please, please, please use an engagement letter. So again, if you go to the free virtual bookkeepers toolbox on 5MB Academy. And Jill, would you share that link with them? So you will get lots of free resources, including a basic engagement letter template. All right. So why should we standardize client onboarding? So we talked about, there's a lot of challenges that we face when we're onboarding clients, but why should we standardize the process? Well, to provide a positive experience for the client, to set expectations with your client, to set those clear boundaries, and to get everything that you need from your client. And hopefully quickly, because as I said, sometimes they just kind of disappear. One of the things that I did, as I said, the key to my success was systematizing things, creating systems, and putting together workflows. So I put together a client onboarding workflow. So I'll go over some of the steps in that workflow. You're going to get a signed agreement or engagement letter from your client and be paid up front. You're going to then send your client a welcome message. You're going to welcome them to your company or to your business and be excited that they're joining you. The third step is to set them up in your company systems, whether that's your QuickBooks, billing, your CRM, document management, etc. You're going to set them up internally. Going on to the middle line there, we're going to obtain everything that we need from the client. Then we're going to have a client kickoff meeting to ensure that the client knows exactly what's expected of them, and so that we can ask questions about them and their business, the types of income and expenses that they have. Then we're going to plan our work. We're going to figure out when are we doing the work throughout the month. What are the deliverables that we have to this client? If you have a team, then you need to figure out who's going to do the work. And on the third line here, we're going to then set up any apps for the client. So if let's say that we're either setting up their payroll, doing their payroll for them, maybe their accounts payable, we'll get that set up for them. And then we'll begin our service delivery, meaning that at that point, then we can start the work. Notice that there's a very clear path that should be followed, and that we're not going to attempt to try to do work like, oh, well, maybe I can start the bank reconciliations. Well, the best thing is to make sure you go through this process and that you don't try to do any work before you complete the process, because otherwise you'll just have a whole bunch of starts and stops, which we don't want, because then that makes you very ineffective. So another question for you, let me know in the chat, what challenges do you have with onboarding new clients? So we talked about some of the challenges that I mentioned, but I want to know about your challenges. So what are some challenges that you have when you're onboarding your new clients? And in the meantime, I'll read a comment from Charlie. I have an engagement letter to lay out the terms clearly with a potential client. I also had a lawyer help me draft a client service agreement, and I use for everyone with a customized scope of work, which they sign before I start work. That's fantastic. And in a best case scenario, you should have an attorney review your engagement letter, but it's not something that's necessary if, let's say, you don't have the money yet to do that. But it is a good thing to invest in a good lawyer to help you with that. So let me see the comments on what are some of the challenges that people have. Sorry, I lost my place here in the chat. Okay, so Holly says the challenges that she has with onboarding new clients, getting them to answer all of her questions and keep her. Yeah, been there, done that. Getting their username and password for bank and credit cards. And hopefully that's not their actual username. You should be getting your own credentials. Your client should be adding you as a read-only user. and not giving you their own credentials, but I'm going to assume that it's just them giving you access to their bank and credit cards. Katie says planning out the work. And yeah, that can be challenging too, because, we have to then figure out where we're adding that client, especially if you're already fairly busy. You need to figure out your capacity. Stephanie says getting them to get the information to me. And again, because they tend to disappear on you, getting their banking info. So again, I'm going to assume that you mean that they're giving you read-only access and not that you're getting the client's credentials to their own bank account, because we would not want to do that. Getting clients to respond to requests from information. So Kenneth says that. Jenny says getting all the info is definitely my biggest challenge. Like I said, a little here, a little there. And that says my systems are not in place, so I recreate the wheel each time and forget things. So that's why you have to document your process or have a system that you can follow to make sure that you know exactly, like, first of all, what are all the steps that you have to do to onboard a new client? And then second, where are you? Because we have a lot of starts and stops, because we get a little bit from the client, then they go away, then we get a little bit more, maybe a week later. We have to know where we are. Otherwise, it's very hard to manage that. Ren says, knowing what to ask for them in the obtain needed items from the client part. So yeah, what is it that you need to get from them? I think that's actually a very good question. What do you need to get from them? Sometimes you don't necessarily know, and maybe you may need to do a paid diagnostic review or something before to get a deeper knowledge into your client. Sabrina says the same thing about getting clients' info set up. Annie, getting them to connect with their bank and credit card and QBO. So again, another one. Holly says, I am also an introvert. The sales and onboarding will probably be the most challenging for me. And Holly, I can totally understand, because that I was so scared about that. But if there are other webinars that I have done in which I talk about selling, and really we have to reframe that thought, because we're scared of sales. But I'm not scared to recommend a service to my client based on their needs, because then I'm helping them. So if I stop thinking that I'm selling something, we can't sell something to someone who doesn't want it. And so if we then think about, I'm going to listen to this prospective client, I am going to then recommend a service to them or services to them based on their needs, then I'm not selling. I'm trying to help them. And then I'm trying to see if we're a good fit for each other. We may not be a good fit, but hopefully we are, and then we can continue to work together. Ren says pricing is a big issue. And so by the time that you are onboarding a client, you would have already figured out the pricing, because that's in the sales phase. But I hear you, because that is a challenge. Emily says managing the cleanup work while at the same time needing to get the processes set up and ongoing management without too much time passing. And yes, sometimes we get stuck in we're doing a cleanup, we're doing monthly, but we're not getting even the onboarding piece going, and then the months are going by and we're not even getting to the monthly part. Stephanie says balancing showing expertise and sharing too much information so the client doesn't need the service anymore. I have been there, and I have some thoughts on that. Maybe if you can ask me that in the Q&A, then I'll talk about that more later. Tatiana says pricing and explaining the cost. So again, pricing your client, everything that happens before you have an engagement letter and before they have paid you, that is the sales or discovery phase. But yes, that is a challenge as well. Vince is getting them to use the software and platforms that you prefer to use. Yes, I've been there, and I think the key to that is that you don't accept clients unless they use the platforms that you use, and that's usually a shift that you have to make in order to make that problem go away. And he says some banks have account access and some don't. Many clients are challenged in terms of technology. So again, sometimes that's, I've known of bookkeepers that don't take clients unless they use certain banks. We don't do that, but I've seen that. And then if they're not techie, like we don't take a client if they don't have a certain level of technology knowledge, because it's too difficult to work with them. Let's see. Oh, okay. Suriani says lack of consistency due to potential clients approaching me with different scenarios and different needs, and it gets challenging. Melissa says making sure they have provided you with all of the parameters of the business. Often they forget an account. Oh yeah, I've been there. They'll just kind of forget that, oh, by the way, there's this account that I forgot about. And some of that is the discovery process comes in, as well as a paid diagnostic review helps you uncover a lot of that. Talha says challenges about which info has from client about e-commerce. And we solved that issue because Mavency specializes in e-commerce, that we only work with Shopify clients and with TikTok sellers, because e-commerce is very, very broad. Donna says if you do a kickoff call, then you can get all the tech set up and restate how we will work together. Most definitely, and we'll talk about that, but that's a great point, Donna. Monica says most of the time they don't have a bookkeeping or accounting set up, and then I start asking, and when I start the bookkeeping, the accounts start appearing. So again, a lot of that, I think you might have to then fix your discovery process, and not taking it. Don't ever take a client if you don't have a full understanding of what they are doing, because it gets very challenging. And let's see, Maria's talking about clients with technology difficulties. So again, I think sometimes you have to let those clients go and decide that you're not going to work with those types of clients. Yasmin is saying where to start and next steps. And again, it's following a process with your client. And then Charlie says getting clients to separate business and personal expenses. And yes, and the way that we address that was we don't take clients who commingle. So they may be commingling and we will fix it, but we will not continue with them if they commingle. So sometimes what I'm seeing here, a lot of these comments are coming from, it's we need to establish boundaries with clients, and even to the point that they will not become a client if they are doing certain things that don't align with the way we do business. So again, an example with Mavency, that a client will come to us, they're selling on Shopify, but they're using an integration app between Shopify and QuickBooks that is not an app that we use. We don't take them as a client because they don't fit our business model. So for many of you, and I understand, I have been there when we're taking any client for any money, for anything, because we need the money. But over time, you need to start looking at what is your business going to look like? Who are the types of clients that you want to work with? And slowly start saying no to some of these types of clients that are not the best fit for you. All right, so let's talk about the types of items, documents, and other things that we need from our clients when we are onboarding them. We need documents for monthly bookkeeping. We need tax and legal documents from them, and we need collaborator or user access to apps. If you'll recall in some of my comments about your chat comments, if you are asking your client for direct access to their bank and credit card accounts, and especially their bank accounts, like if your client is sharing their credentials with you to where you know what their credentials are, you should not be doing that. You should never have direct access to your client's bank account. You should have a separate read-only or bookkeeper access to those accounts. So what are some of the documents that we will need for monthly bookkeeping? And excuse me just a moment. a dry throat. Okay, so documents needed for monthly bookkeeping. We're going to need their bank statements. So ideally, we are going to request read-only access from that client. And sometimes we will request PDF statements of those accounts. And if, let's say, we're maybe cleaning up a full year, we're going to ask the client to give us PDF statements for all of those bank accounts. But if we're working with monthly clients, then we are requesting that they give us read-only access, ideally. If we are doing accounts payable, then we may need access to images of checks that they have written if they're using manual checks. We may need their vendor bills if we're paying or entering vendor bills for them. If we're processing accounts receivable for them, we will need details of customer payments and deposits that they made, as well as customer names, invoices paid, etc. If we're processing payroll for clients, then we will need their employees' information, their legal paperwork, payroll paperwork, depending on the country that you're in. In the U.S., we'll have like a W-4, I-9, maybe payroll deductions that they allow you to take from their check. So we would need that type of paperwork, timesheets if they have hourly employees, information about paid time off or PTO if we're tracking that, information about any payroll deductions that need to be taken, and then anything else that affects payroll. And there may be other types of documents that we need from our clients, maybe loan statements if they have loans. If they use PayPal, we would need PayPal statements. If they use, say, Stripe, we'll need access to their Stripe, or we'll need the Stripe statements. In our case, for our Shopify clients, we need access to their Shopify, their PayPal, and other payment processors, and then anything else really that you need to work on their monthly bookkeeping. When it comes to tax and legal documents that we need from our clients, we will need a copy of their last tax return. In the U.S., that would be for an S corporation, C corporation, and partnership. And then for legal and corporate documents, we will ask, and again, this is U.S. based. Hopefully you have something similar in your country, an S corporation election if they are an S corporation, articles of incorporation, and then a partnership agreement. Now, when it comes to the legal documents that we request, why do we request these legal type documents? Well, many times clients will say, well, my friend Mary and I are partners in the business. Okay, do you have a partnership agreement? No. Okay, so you don't really have a legal partnership. Or, maybe they are partners, then we need to know what are the terms of the partnership so that if there's anything that affects the bookkeeping side, we know what that is. Sometimes clients will say that they have made an S corporation election, but they really didn't. And so we really like to confirm what it is that they told us, just to make sure that then anything that affects the bookkeeping is properly reflected based on their how they're being taxed, how the business is set up, and anything else that may affect the bookkeeping. Let's talk about onboarding apps. So how can we then go from all stickies everywhere to using some apps that can help us get organized? I put some suggestions for you based on the cost, because I know some of you are starting out. Cost is a concern, and these apps they add up over time. So here's my recommendation for some low cost apps. For workflow management, I recommend Asana. For client collaboration, just your email. And for document management, Google Drive. So this will be the lowest priced apps that you can use when you're starting out. Asana, you can get the free version. Your email, if you're using Google Suite, is about $6 per user per month, so not too expensive. And then Google Drive is part of your Google Suite. So, under $10, you can get going. and that would be $10 a month. Then apps for onboarding that I recommend for workflow management. You can use Keeper app, Financial Sense, Client Hub, or Asana. For client collaboration, and that's where then I'm communicating with the client, I'm requesting information, requesting documents from the client. You can use Keeper app, Financial Sense, or Client Hub. And then for document management, Google Drive, Box, or Dropbox. So notice that these apps now will require a higher financial investment. In my opinion, well worth the investment to then start using these apps to help you with workflow management, client collaboration, document management. But as I said, to start out, you can easily just start out with Asana, just your email, and Google Drive. Let's talk about the client kickoff meeting. So this is really a great opportunity for you to start setting those boundaries with your client, as well as get the client in a meeting after they've become a client to sort of circle back to, hey, we requested all these things, but we don't have them from you. So many times, and especially, I know we have a team of introverts at our firm that we're very good at, we can send lots of emails, we can send lots of messages, but we don't always feel comfortable getting the client in a face-to-face meeting or talking, maybe even calling them sometimes to get what you need. But we found that it's very effective to do the client kickoff meeting. So I'm going to ask you a question. So let me know in the chat, do you have problems setting boundaries with your clients? And maybe even tell me what kind of problems. And I'm sure you have all sorts of problems. So maybe if you just want to say, yes, you do, that's fine. But now that I see this question, the answer is probably yes for many of you. And then while you're answering that, it's the Tanya says, my client had to add me to his bank account in order for me to be a check signer. So as a bookkeeper, like independent bookkeeper, you should never sign checks for your client. As that is not a best practice. If you are an employee of your client, I still don't think you should be signing checks for your client. So you may want to rethink that. You're incurring a lot of liability when you do that. If something goes wrong, you may get blamed, as well as we really need to protect clients from our own selves. And sometimes, there are situations in our life that things can happen financially to where you can talk yourself into like, hey, that client is not going to need that. He won't ever know if I borrowed $1,000 and I'll put it back later. We don't want that level of temptation even to exist. And so we need to protect our clients from themselves and from us. And why is it that we see so much embezzlement going on? We had a client, even their bookkeeper embezzled $8 million. Okay, $8 million. Because the client gave them ability to sign a check. So please do not share your client's credentials. Do not sign your client's checks. You should not be doing that. And I'm sorry, you can disagree with me, but it is not a best practice. All right, so let's see. Lots of you saying yes. Adrienne says, do you have a problem setting client boundaries? Only if the client is a friend. And yes, sometimes that, like we get into doing things for friends, and then we have a difficulty with those friends. Stephanie says, yes, I keep doing more tasks that are outside the scope of work at no charge to help them out. Stephanie, no. Does your car repair person do extra tasks to help you out? Think of all the people that you pay for services or products. Are they helping you out? Are they giving you free stuff? They're probably not. Your doctor's certainly not. And so we are very well-intentioned people, I think as a whole in our industry, and we have trouble saying no and setting those boundaries. Paul says, no, good for Paul. Been burned too many times. Good for you, Paul. And Donna says, not anymore. In her world, not anymore. And I would say in mine too, not anymore, because it's happened too many times. And let's see. Valerie says, I don't have problems with setting boundaries, but more enforcing them when the client doesn't follow. Yeah. And Stephanie says, boundaries are difficult. Client asking me to do administrative and clerical and office work that are outside the agreed upon services. Yeah, and that's why you need that engagement letter, because you just say, hey, this is not in part of my engagement letter, and I am a professional bookkeeper and not an administrative assistant or whatever, whatever they're asking you to do. Sometimes it's HR and all sorts of things, and just to say that is not on our engagement letter, and that is not something that I do for clients. And Tanya says, sometimes, especially when they ask for extra work outside the scope, and also with phone calls and texts at all times of the day, and giving out my personal contact information to employees since you do the payroll. So no, that is it's just, we just have to say no. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the client kickoff meeting and setting boundaries. So in a client kickoff meeting, we are going to talk to our client. Ideally, we're going to do this through Zoom, or if you are working with a local client, this needs to be face-to-face, but ideally through Zoom, because most of us are working with clients virtually. We're going to discuss what we need from the client on a monthly basis. We're going to discuss timelines for monthly deliverables. So first of all, what do we need from the client? And then when are we going to complete our work? We're going to discuss expectations for how you will work together with your client. So how is the client expected to communicate with you? What is the method of communication that is expected? So is it, hey, we are going to communicate through our client portal, through Slacks or through Teams, through email or through text? And please don't give it. Email and text should not be done ideally. I'll talk about that more in a moment. But unless your client is paying a premium to text you at all hours of the day, they should not be texting you. That you need to have a clear boundary and a clear way also for how they need to communicate with you. What is the frequency of that communication? How often can they contact you or your team? What are your office hours? So even though I know most of us, even now, I'm working from home now. We no longer have our physical office. What are your office hours? When is it acceptable for them to contact you? And then when can the client expect a response from you? And many times, if they're texting you at all hours and you're responding at all hours, you are then letting them do it because you are responding to them. And so they need to know when is it appropriate for them to contact you, and then when they can expect a response from you. And then you need to stress to them that you cannot complete your work unless your client is responsive to your request. So what we tell our new clients is that, hey, we're going to work on your books every single month, and that your books are going to be completed by X date. Usually it's by the end of the following month. But that we cannot do our work and we cannot complete our work unless we get everything that we need from them. Another thing that is not here, but in our world, I'm going to keep quoting Donna today, in our world, that for e-commerce clients, inventory is a very big part of what they do. And most of them don't have a good way of tracking inventory, but they want us to track their inventory. So then we have to set the expectation of, hey, we can do that for you, but our numbers, what you see on your financials for inventory and cost of goods sold, are only as good as the numbers that you give to us. And so if you're giving us information that is inaccurate, the financials are going to be inaccurate. And lastly, in your a client kickoff meeting and setting those boundaries, then you need to address out of scope requests with your client. So what happens if they ask for something that is not on that engagement letter? So I have put this quote so that you could take a picture, do a screenshot, whatever you need to do. This on the handout, but you can say this verbatim to your client. So here we go. Services outside of our existing engagement letter are subject to separate pricing. We will notify you if you request a service outside of our engagement letter, and we will provide a clear price estimate or upfront pricing before completing additional services. Okay, so it's very clear that we only do what is on that engagement letter, that if they're asked for something that is outside of that engagement letter, we will let them know, and then we will tell them what the price is for that service. And of course, that's only assuming that's a service that you provide. If they're asking you for something you don't normally provide, then you just say, no, that's not something that I do. All right. So we actually have an agenda that we follow for our client kickoff meeting. So this is an excerpt of then, what are the areas that we're going to cover? Who is going to fill that role from our team? Who are we going to talk to on either the client, the owner? Is that our contact person? Are there other contact people that we need to talk to? They need to be in that meeting. We're going to refer to the engagement letter and actually remind them, like, hey, we have a signed engagement letter. We may even go over each of the services that is included. Even answer their questions about maybe they're confused. I will say that a lot of times clients sign engagement letters that they don't read them, but it is a legal document. It is up to them to read it. And so that is something that, I'm sorry if they don't read it, but that is what they agree to. We will discuss with them what we need on a monthly basis. So what are all the documents that we need from them? Again, talking about timely submission for accurate bookkeeping. We'll discuss unidentified transactions and how we will handle them and how they will be sent to the client. And then we'll discuss the timelines for monthly deliverables. So whether it's your bookkeeping, when it will be completed, let's say if you're doing payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, etc., there will be a clear calendar of when things will be done. And notice that this isn't asking the client, when do you need this or when do you want this? You have to take control. You have to set the tone. You have to direct the process. And that is how you start to set those boundaries. When we let the client have control, that is when it gets all out of control, because most of them don't have processes in place to do any of what they want you to do. Now let's talk about the client onboarding checklist. So a part of again, making sure that we're staying on track, making sure that we get everything that we need from the client, is using a client onboarding checklist. This is an excerpt of my client onboarding checklist. And so, again, we're going to get that signed engagement letter, the invoice. We're going to send the welcome email and introductions. We're going to gather documents from them. So it's really expanding the steps that I showed you earlier where, let me see if I can, okay, let's see. I don't use this very often. Ooh. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the onboarding checklist is basically taking the onboarding workflow and then adding steps to each of these sections in the onboarding workflow. Okay, let me get back to where I was, if I can find. Yeah, here we go. So, so that's basically then where we have something that's taking a step by step for what we need to be doing. So let me know in the chat, are you using an onboarding checklist? And I'm just, for the sake of time, I will keep on going. So let's go over some best practices for onboarding clients. And so we're wrapping it up, but let me know in the chat if you're using a client onboarding checklist. So best practices. You need to keep your client informed regularly. So when we're in the onboarding process, we need to keep those clients informed on a regular basis. Remember that your client paid you in advance. So they want to make sure that things are, they're moving along, that they didn't make a mistake by hiring you. So you need to help them to feel welcome. And that's what we're going to do. The welcome email. We're going to be communicating with them. We're going to do the client kickoff meeting. It's just part of not only for you to get what you need, but the client needs to feel like they made the right decision and that everything's moving along as it should be. Use the onboarding process to communicate clear boundaries with your clients. Reiterate your entire process, as I said, how they will communicate, how they need, how you will respond to them, what hours, or how many questions can you even ask, or what types of questions can you ask us about? So those clients that are texting you over and over, we don't have that happen in Mavency. It doesn't happen. And so I don't know really what those clients are asking you. Maybe you want to tell me in the chat. But generally speaking, for Mavency, we don't have those kinds of clients. We don't have those issues. But you need to reiterate the process with your clients and keep going back to, now remember that we said that, this is how we work. Basically, you have to keep reiterating. Keep your team accountable to meeting the milestones that you set for your clients. So if you work with employees and contractors, you have to keep your team accountable. It's important to set milestones, or onboarding will just take too long. It's sometimes, we're a month into onboarding a client and it's like, team, what is going on? Why are we getting what we need? And they'll say, well, they're not responding. Okay, get them on a call, text them, get them in a meeting. We've got to get this going. You need to continually follow up with your client to get what you need. And unfortunately, you just have to. And this is why, once I started adding team members, I made that somebody's job is to make sure that we get that. Basically, it's someone's job. She's not a bookkeeper. She makes sure that we are onboarding the client and that we get everything that we need from them. And in fact, some of you sometimes ask, like, hey, I'd like to add an employee. What should they do? I would put onboarding on their plate very, very quickly. And then you get everything that you need from your client before starting your service delivery to avoid starts and stops. So make sure you get everything that you need and then you start. And that means also when clients, they have those cleanups and I need this as soon as possible because I've got to get my taxes done. And when can you get it done? Well, we can get it done from 4 weeks from the time we get everything from you. It's usually our answer. So we can get it done by this many weeks from the time we get everything from you. So then it puts the responsibility back on the client. So to recap, we talked about the 5 steps to success in your virtual bookkeeping workflows, tech tools, document management, client onboarding, which is what we talked about today, a monthly bookkeeping process, and a team and client collaboration. And remember again that I said when we start out, at the bottom left here, it says your current reality. You're probably doing everything. I was doing everything. No clients, nobody in the beginning, but then I got clients and then it was just this like crazy, disorganized. But you have to set a vision for what your ideal business, your dream business looks like and what your dream life looks like, and to realize that you're going on a journey. And so while you may be working with clients that maybe don't respect your boundaries, clients who are commingling, clients who they're not the best clients, and that there are better clients out there, then you have to set your sights on, okay, while I may be working with these types of clients right now, in a year from now, I'm going to then say no to anybody who commingles, for example, or I'm going to say no. What do you need to say no to in order to then start building a better clientele. Because if we just keep taking the same kinds of clients, it's not going to change. And so you have to change what you are doing. You have to change your processes, the way that you do things, as well as you have to change the types of clients that you bring into your business. And over time, then work toward getting more and more clients who are better suited for you, and then replacing the ones that are not, that are not respectful of your time and are not compliant, and ultimately are not profitable to you. So here's some resources to share with you. So go to my YouTube channel for all of my videos. I do a lot of short videos, and we have everything from 30-second short videos to videos that are about 5 minutes. And then we have recordings of our previous webinars as well. Go to 5MB Academy for free and paid resources, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And sign up to be notified about my latest content, webinars, courses, sales, and everything else going on. I gave you the QR code so you can scan and get signed up for that. So you'll find out about all of our upcoming content, courses, webinars, etc. And while you're doing that, I wanted to briefly talk to you about 5MB Academy, where I help you to become a confident bookkeeper. Before I get to that, why did I start 5MB Academy? Because I was tired of my clients telling me that, oh, my previous bookkeeper messed up my books, or, this bookkeeper doesn't know what they're doing. I just felt that, we need to elevate our industry. We really need our bookkeepers to have a deep skill set. There is a very low barrier to entry now to become a bookkeeper, especially in the US. We don't have any guidelines or regulations or anything that forces a bookkeeper to get a certification. So anyone can become a bookkeeper, which is great. But at the same time, you may not have the skills that you need, nor the systems and processes in place to help you be a good bookkeeper, a confident bookkeeper. And that's why I created 5MB Academy. So as part of the course offerings that I have in 5MB Academy, I just wanted to share a couple of them with you. And we happen to be running a sale on these. So one is our client onboarding checklist. So it's our, you saw the excerpt earlier of the client onboarding checklist. So this is the full client onboarding checklist. Has all the steps, your client onboarding workflow diagram, recommended onboarding apps, the full list of documents to request from your clients, as well as the client kickoff meeting agenda. That, again, I showed you an excerpt of it. You can get the full agenda. So the regular price for that checklist is $45. And then we are running a sale. You can get it for a little bit over $38. You do need the discount code onboarding with 5MB. So Jill should be posting that for you in the chat if you want to grab that client onboarding checklist. And then we also have a bundle, and this is really going to help you to set those client boundaries and have really very deep, I guess, is that the word? Very useful engagement letter. So while I do have a simple engagement letter template, we have an engagement letters course that has multiple engagement letters with a lot more meat on the bones, if you will. And several of you said in the chat that you are now using those engagement letters. And so the bundle has the engagement letters template. It has done for you scripts to confidently communicate with clients. As well as the engagement, as well as the client onboarding checklist. So either you can buy just the client onboarding checklist or buy the full bundle to really help you to get really effective engagement letters, to have scripts already written for you to have some of these difficult conversations with clients, like if there's a scope creep or they're doing things you don't want them to do, we have the scripts already written for you. And then it also includes the client onboarding checklist. The regular price for that is $229. You can get it for a little bit over $194. Again, you need the discount code onboarding with 5 MB. So Jill has shared those the course and the bundle with you. And Jill, make sure that they have the discount code in the chat as well. But the discount code is onboarding with 5 MB. So you'll make sure that you use that in the checkout to get the discount. All right. So I'm going to go to the Q&A, and I'm just going to leave this up for just a moment while I move over to the Q&A. And we'll answer your questions for about the next 10 minutes or so. So I'll try to cover as much as I can in that time. And let me share my screen. Oh, hold on a second. Always pop that arrow. Share screen. Okay, there we go. So you can see the Q&A as well. So, all right. Question from Stephanie. As requested during onboarding, how do you balance showing expertise and sharing too much? Okay, so this is not part of onboarding. This is part of your discovery or sales process. And how do you balance that? I think it's, sorry. I think I clicked the wrong things. Give me 1 second again. Sorry, guys. I clicked the button and my shared screen disappeared. Here we go. Share. Okay. Hide. Okay. Now, there we go. So that's part of the sales process or discovery process. And so you need, you just have to give enough information, like sharing best practices, sharing things of that nature. Sorry, it keeps, okay, I'm just going to keep answering questions. I'm sorry, the share screen just keeps popping up for whatever reason. And without getting into a free consultation. Brenda's asking, do most banks and credit unions offer read-only access to accounts? That major banks do. Credit unions and small local banks do not. Stephanie asked, can I use the discount code on June 1st instead of buying today? So I probably forgot to to show you that the sale ends on Friday. So I believe it ends. You can try it on June 1st. It will still be open, even though technically the sale ends on Friday, but it'll still work on Saturday. So if it doesn't, reach out to us. Tatiana asks, 50% payment, is that from annual total or 50% from what? So it depends on the service. So for a cleanup, usually you should be asking 50% upfront. For monthly, you should be asking for 100% of the month's service. So let's say if you charge $750 a month, then to start a client, they need to be paying you the full $750 to start that month. If it's a catch up, like we're catching up several months, then should be typically you want to ask for 50% or even all of it up front. Mariel asked, do you provide templates on how to write an engagement letter? So yes, so the engagement letters course as part of the bundle has that. It has done for you templates already. So take a look at the links that Jill shared with you, and you'll find that that course is part of that bundle. Stacy asks, how do you address refunds in the engagement letter that there are no refunds? Great question, and that is part of our engagement letters course with the done for you wording on that, because we had to add that in because we've had clients that come to work with us and then they completely disappear. We never hear from them. So we do not give money back. We also will disengage with clients who, let's say we're doing a cleanup and it's been 3 weeks since we requested information, never heard from them. And then we'll give them some warnings, but then just say, if we don't hear from you in 3 weeks, we will disengage and no money back is given. So we have wording for that. We've had clients that have paid for it, I'd say a diagnostic review, and then decide that, oh no, I need to cancel the service. There are no refunds for that. So we had to have that wording exist in the engagement letters course. It's done for you, wording already. Maria says, asked, do we add a clause regarding deadlines for the client to deliver documents or information to us? And do we set up those deadlines for us on the engagement letter? We don't, but if you want to do that would be fine too. You can. I don't think it's necessary, but you can. Z asked, do you have a disengagement letter? We don't normally disengage with clients via letter. We just do it verbally, or sometimes through email. Then we just save the email. We don't have an official disengagement letter. Question from BL, what is the fee you charge for migrating from QB desktop to online? We don't do any because we just don't like to do them. So again, we learn to say no to work that we don't want to do. But when we did it, I think we charged a minimum of $2,500 US. Jody asked, do you recommend an hourly rate or monthly pricing? I always recommend doing fixed pricing for everything that we do. So everything we do is priced in advance. Sarah is asking, how do you view their bank information? Do you log into their account? We do, but with read-only access only. So if they don't, maybe if it's a small bank or a credit union, they're going to have to give us their a PDF of their bank statement. But otherwise, we are logging in with our own read-only access. Wendy's asking, did you take all clients when you first started to make money? Yes, I did. How do you know? How do you think I'm teaching you all these best practices? It's because I did all the bad things in the beginning. So yes. And that's why I said that in the beginning, you are taking those less than ideal clients because you've got to make money, because I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job. And so, but over time, we have to realize that we have to aim for different clients slowly, like replacing the less ideal ones with more ideal ones, to then end up with where your 80% of your clients are ideal clients. Sarah's asking, do you use only one email to obtain this information? What if you have multiple clients and you do not mix them up? We do not use email to get information from clients. We use the Keeper app. And so then each client has a client portal. But yeah, you should really not be emailing clients if at all possible. Laura is asking, you said for payroll, you may need I-9s from the client. Do you require this to confirm the employee can be paid? I think of this as an HR form, not for bookkeeping. Well, if, I don't know, maybe it's just a CPA in me, but I think if I were to set up an employee for payroll, that I would request an I-9 and W-4, just because that's what you should have for purposes of paying an employee. But maybe, if you don't want to ask for the I-9, that's fine. Wendy is asking, how do you know how much you should receive in the beginning when you don't know how long it will take to do if you're new? Okay, so for, oh gosh, I could go on for hours with that question, but okay, so if you don't know because you are new, typically what you want to do is probably charge clients for, let's say, a 10-hour chunk of time. So you kind of have to use hourly, and maybe the client doesn't need to know that you're hourly, but let's say if I was charging, just for the sake of math, $100 an hour times 10 hours, and I would request $1,000 upfront. The problem with not knowing how long something takes is that your client also does not know when the work will be done. So over time, you must move over to fixed pricing and giving the client some expectation of when the work will be done. But as I said, that it does take experience. Over time, that's where you want to move to. Let's see. Lavonda asks, what's your goal to complete onboarding? We don't really have a goal per se because every client is so unique. Usually I would say within 2 weeks, we want a client onboarded. But it's hard to do just because, as I said, it's unique. And then they're not giving you everything that you need. Elisa asks, what tech tools do we need when starting a new virtual bookkeeping service? If you go to the free Virtual Bookkeepers Toolbox, then I believe that's where I have all of, at least a list of some of the tech tools that you can use. In my course, the Virtual Bookkeepers Roadmap, which is a premium course, I cover everything, the entire all the 5 steps to build a successful virtual bookkeeping business. All of the tech tools, I give you all of the checklists and everything that you need. And Elisa asks, what courses do I need when I'm trying to start a virtual bookkeeping business? So first of all, if you're just looking to start, you need bookkeeper training. So do not look at my courses because I do not teach basic bookkeeping. Something like Bookkeeper Launch at bookkeepers.com is one of the courses that I know is a good course that you can take a look at, but always start with bookkeeper training first, your QuickBooks knowledge or whatever accounting system you're going to use. Typically it's QuickBooks, at least in the US. Some people do use Xero. Make sure that you learn that software. And then if you want to come back to some of the 5 MBA Academy courses, then you can do that. Mariel asked, does your engagement letter template include everything we should be doing as a successful bookkeeper? No. So that is just strictly just the wording for an engagement letter. When you say everything you should be doing as a successful bookkeeper in terms of like the steps that I mentioned, the 5 steps, that is the Virtual Bookkeepers Roadmap course. As I said, that is a premium offering that we have on 5MB Academy. Next question. My prospect client told me that his accountant told him there was no need to do bank reconciliations for 2022 because taxes have already been filed. So he requested me to finish 2023. Okay, I'm going to ask you to ask that question in my Facebook group because I don't have enough time to answer it and it's outside of what we're covering today. But if you go to the 5-minute bookkeeping community, if you're not a member, join the group, ask the question there, and then we'll try to answer you there. Tanya says, I find it hard to price new clients without having all the information up front, like number of bank accounts, also pricing the initial setup of a business. So it takes you longer than expected. In that case, you need to be doing some sort of paid analysis, paid diagnosis before, sometimes we start that out for free, but you need to have that information before you price the client. You need to really get all of that information, especially for a cleanup client. You need to be doing a paid diagnostic review to really get deep down into what you need and understand their needs. Sabrina is asking, do you take on clients who are all in the same industry? We do at Maven C. We only work with people who sell on Shopify or on TikTok Shop. So we have a very small niche. Ideally, over time, you do want to move toward then working with niche clients, just because then your expertise goes up, as well as how your prospective clients value your skill set because you work exclusively with that type of client. And Angela is asking, how long do you maintain client documents? We maintain them forever, actually, because we use Box, and Box, the subscription level of Box that we use for document management allows us to maintain clients indefinitely. And it does, I don't pay any extra to keep those documents, so they just get archived and we just continue. And I'm going to keep going and answering questions for just a few more minutes, but if you need to go, obviously, thank you for attending, but I'm going to answer Patricia's question. Do you offer a cleanup course? Yes. So that is on 5MB Academy. It's called the Complete QBO Cleanup System. And we also teach you how to do a paid diagnostic review, and that is the QBO paid diagnostic review. So again, on 5MB Academy. Ren is asking, is the onboarding process different for a client who's starting a new business versus one that's pre-existing? So I would say yes in the types of documents that you may need from that client, but otherwise, no. But yeah, definitely a client that is just starting out, has different needs. They may even, I would say from a service standpoint, probably need things set up for them. And so you would want to price that differently. Let's see. Maria is asking, what is the reasonable time of delivery for a cleanup project, assuming you get all the documents and information on time? Typically for us, and because we have a team, but we are working on our monthly clients. So for us, it's 6 weeks from the time that we get everything from the client. If they need a rush, they will do it in 4 weeks. We do not do it any faster. We just find that anytime you're rushing a cleanup job is not going to go well. Maria's asking, when you do a diagnostic review, do you focus on the last month or the whole year? Just depends on what we may be cleaning up. So if, let's say they came to us and say that they haven't filed their taxes for 2023, and of course we would need to get that cleaned up, then we are doing the diagnostic review for 2023, actually not through May of 2024. Robbie's asking, do you have checklists other than onboarding? So yes, take a look at 5MB Academy. There are several different checklists that are either sold individually or they're part of a full course that teaches you online. For example, for the cleanup course, has a cleanup checklist, but then it teaches you how to do a cleanup. We have the Virtual Bookkeepers Roadmap has all of the checklists and forms that you need for your monthly bookkeeping process. And then the diagnostic review has the diagnostic review checklist. All right. I think I got through. So, well, thank you again for joining me today. This was very successful. And I always say I'm going to do this in less time, and then I keep right on going. So I will work on spending less time on the webinar part so I can answer more of your questions. And let's see, Wendy's asking, do you review with the client each year regarding needs for the following year and cost fee increases? Yes, we increase their fee every single year, and we go over that with them once a year. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining me today. And make sure you sign up for next month's webinar when you see that on social media. And we will see you in our Facebook group. If I didn't answer your question, please ask that in the Facebook group. I'll be happy to answer you there. Take care. Bye, everyone.